Welcome to the British Museum. Located in the nation's capital, the British Museum is the largest museum in London and is located in the northern part of the city in Tottenham. Yet as superb and grand as the museum is, I had a very hard time finding the African exhibit. I had to walk through the Great Hall and through a series of other exhibits before going down a set of stairs that finally led me to what I was looking for. The total exhibit is separated into three different sections, three different rooms. The first room is the war room in the western part of the room, which is then connected to the eastern room by a tunnel which is meant to represent Carnival, the biggest street party in all of Africa. The design of the museum is very simplistic. Hardwood floors lead to white walls and dark ceiling overhead, almost like a studio.
Entering the western room, the immediate focus is on the military aspects of Africa during this time period. The gun tree and the pottery tree stand out as the largest sculptures in the room, while some of the weapons and other designs, including uniforms, pictures of leaders, are displayed as well.
Upon entering the western room, the three most key important features that stand out are the tree of guns, the tree of pottery, and the large display case that showcases the different types of ancient weapons that were used in African tribes and different sorts of wars that were fought all over the African continent. Although very controversial and contradicting in their senses, the tree of pottery and the tree of guns show the key hypocrisy in African culture, how the continent was a continent of war and fighting, yet also represents these key architectural, cultural movements that happen. They show the kind of mixing and the way that these two things are separated from the real world. In addition to the gun and tree exhibits, the weapons case stands large and tall, displaying over 100 different types of axes, swords, and knives from the tribal eras. People gawk and look around the exhibit. Artists sit on the floor and stare with amazement, as people see the different types of craftsmanship shown in the intricate designs on these weapons. The different weapons appear to be floating in the air. It seems as if nothing is holding them up. They are poised to strike, almost as if we could reach out and grab them. But these weapons are held up by small little pegs that are inserted into the glass ceiling. Since they are metal, they appear to be part of the weapon and therefore give the illusion that it is floating. But upon further notice, you can see the small pegs holding the weapon. Although this particular display case is focused on the 19th century, the British Museum also does pay tribute to the 20th century and all the modern warfare that's been going on, with this exhibit of the AK-47 being shown. Exiting the Western War Room, we enter the long hallway that represents the most exciting part of the exhibit, Africa's Carnival. Carnival typically happens in Africa in January, but the British Museum is allowing us to experience it right now, with large floats, different masks, and people walking down the hallway as if we were being presented with the parade ourselves. The way the British Museum is set up allows us to fully experience Carnival, as we see the large, godlike structures presented in a way as if we were seeing the parade go by us, as we walk down the hallway, as we see the other types of people that would be there, standing in their masks and different sort of articles of jewelry and clothing.
The masks beckon us to join them in the largest street party in African heritage, trying to celebrate their tradition and culture.
But as glamorous and fun as Carnival may be, we cannot stay forever, as we move into the Eastern Room to focus on culture.
Identical to the Western Room, this room also uses clear glass cases and a minimalistic look to display the artifacts in there as sort of a contrast, transitioning from war into peace and culture.
By using clear glass cases, the Eastern Room really allows us to focus on the artifacts located inside of them, as to not distract the viewer in any way from the true meaning of what the exhibit wants to display. Walking through the Eastern Room, we come to the crown jewel of the African exhibit, the Tiles of Benin, where benches are strategically placed around so the viewers can sit and stare at these beautiful creations from the Benin Empire of the 18th century. The Tiles of Benin are displayed almost as if they are a comic book, which allows us to read across and see the different types of civilization that occurred in Benin, from trading and bartering to fighting different wars against neighboring countries. The British Museum particularly emphasizes the Empire of Benin to show just how far African civilization was in comparison to Europeans, which we don't typically think of when we think of African civilizations. We think of how sort of undermined and undercultured they were, but the Empire of Benin was truly advanced, and this is what the British Museum is trying to demonstrate to its viewers. The museum particularly displays different works of Christianity and Benin culture, which is sort of a shock to the system, as we don't typically think of African culture as being the centerpiece of Christianity. This particular tapestry shows the different viewpoints of Christianity through the African lens. Other forms of Benin craftsmanship are shown in the other types of textiles, which are displayed in the African exhibit.
Fine linens like these really show us how advanced African civilization was in Benin at this time period of about 1800 to 1900.
Looking at the fine linen section, I began to notice different screens portraying almost movies or some sorts of videos, which a lot of people were gathered around and watching.
Video players like these are frequently displayed in the African exhibit, as they tell a more context to the story about what we're looking at as the viewer.
These screens, sometimes showing slideshows, other times videos and movies, help us understand the greater picture. Sometimes they accompany with text, and this helps provide the context needed to understand in a complete sense what we're looking at. In total, the African exhibit, located in the bowels of the British Museum, uses a simple, minimalistic design to emphasize the artifacts it contains. The museum interacts with its visitors as we walk through the hallway of the carnival. Also, the museum illuminates the key differences in African life, as we see a room dedicated to African warfare and one to the African civilization and culture.